Welcome, fellow Monster Girl hunters. A warning before we begin today in the Beastmen category of the Monster Girls Encyclopedia by Kangaroo Cross. I am going to slaughter these words. We have Norse, Greek, and Celtic. Then we also have Japanese. I am going to slaughter the names. Bear with me, and hopefully you're able to translate what I say into what it actually is. Werewolf. From Norse mythology, Fenrir, Old Norse fell dweller, or Fenrirsfurt, Old Norse Ferris's wolf, often translated as Ferris wolf, also known as Hodvitr, Fame wolf, and Vengurd, monster of the river Van, or Vanagard, is a monstrous wolf in Norse mythology. Fenrir, together with Hel and the world serpent, are the children of Loki and the giantess Angerboden. He is attested in the Poetic Edda, compiled in the 13th century from earlier traditional sources, and the Prose Edda and Heimskringla, written in the 17th century by Sonir Gudlausen. In both the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda, Fenrir is the father of the wolves Skulnir and Hata, the wolves that chase the sun and the moon, attempting to eat them. Things that I've heard of, not entirely certain of the truth, is that whenever there is a solar or lunar eclipse, Norse people would go outside and just make as much noise as they can, presumably to scare off Skuld and Hata to get the sun back, or the moon. Ferris is foretold to kill Odin during the events of Ragnarok, but will in turn die by Odin's son, Vidnar. In the Prose Edda, additional information is given on Fenrir, including that, due to the god's knowledge of prophecy foretelling trouble from Fenrir and his rapid growth, the gods tricked him into allowing himself to be bound by challenging his strength. They had attempted this multiple times before, but had finally created bindings that would hold him. And as a result, Fenrir bit off the right hand of the god Tyr, who had placed his hand within the wolf's mouth because the wolf was getting suspicious of being tricked. Depictions of Fenrir have been identified on various objects, and scholarly theories have been proposed regarding Fenrir's relation to other canine beings in Norse mythology. Fenrir has been the subject of artistic depictions and has appeared in literature. From Greek, this particular one was getting from ilovewerewolves.com. In Greek mythology, one of the first werewolves that is said to have existed is Lycan. The tale of Lycan hints at the origin of why being a werewolf is considered a curse. As the myths go, Lycan was a king of Arcadia that angered the great god Zeus with his cruelty. It is said that Lycan was so cruel that the stories of his cruelty actually reached the god Zeus. Zeus decided to pay Lycan a visit to see if the stories were true, and to Zeus's dismay, discovered they were. Meanwhile, Lycan, when he discovered that others believed that his visitor was in fact the god Zeus, deployed tests to prove it, as he did not believe it was Zeus. What happened, therefore, varies from version to version of the tale, but most stories say that one of the tests the king concocted was to serve a human being to Zeus at a banquet, and the other stories say that Lycan actually attempted to kill Zeus to prove that he was not immortal as Zeus would be. The one I personally heard was that he knew it was Zeus and fed him the flesh of his enemies as a tribute to Zeus, which offended him. In all versions of the story, Lycan ended up angering Zeus to the point that Zeus punished the king by turning him completely into a wolf. Lycan was said to have 50 sons. Some varieties of the story also say that Zeus transformed Lycan's 50 sons into wolves. Others say that he killed them all with a thunderbolt. And thus the name of werewolf condition is known by some as lycanthropy. The story of Lycan is believed to be the basis of a Greek Arcadian festival called Lycana, which celebrates Zeus. The festival involves the offering of cakes to the god, which is believed that the ancient version of the festival may have involved human sacrifice. In Celtic mythology, mainly Wales, Ireland, and Britannia, where ancient myths and legends were written down in a Christianizing texts, wolves played a number of important roles. Similar to the story of Romulus and Remus, a future king was once reared by a she-wolf. Cormac MacEart grew up to become an important High King of Ireland. In many Irish Welsh myths, the wolf is usually a helper and a guide. We also find myths of deities in wolf form, like the goddess Morgana appearing in wolf form, but was defeated by the hero Chulani, the hound or wolf of Culin. There's also the old Gaelic Irish myth Feliich. There's also the old Gaelic Irish month Feli, the mother of the wolf, February, in which most cultures, in other cultures, it is often January, February, are obviously a period in which wolves are more present, being mating period. The pre-medieval Celtic world is, of course, much larger, covering most of Europe for over 1 millennia, from the Hallstatt period down to late antiquity. It is therefore no surprise that wolves probably played a different role in each local myth and local religion, though there might be some common denominator. Since religious affairs were not written down in ancient times, according to Caesar in his Gaelic War De Bella Gallico, the Druids did not allow this. Our knowledge of the ancient Celtic mythology is largely based on iconograph representations in art and on coins. Various objects provide important clues from which the wolf does appear on a number of coins in the Iron Age. From Volume 1 of the Monster Girl Encyclopedia, Werewolf. The werewolf is a beastman, even though they're all women, beastman with wolf characteristics. They live in a pack and are intelligent but violent, using their strong legs and unimaginable stamina to run forests and mountains hunting for prey. When a werewolf finds a man she likes, she unleashes her base desire upon him. Her style of copulation is wolf-like and is bestial in its violence. True to her raging desire howling within her, she slams her hip against the man's relentlessly. Considering her stamina far exceeds that of the human, it goes without saying that one or two coupling will not be enough to satisfy her. A man caught by a werewolf can expect to unleash his essence into her again and again until her seemingly insatiable needs are met. It should be noted that, as wild werewolves live in a pack, if one fancy a man enough to bring him back to the pack, he will inevitably have to face a large number of monsters who will raid him one after the other every night. When the werewolf enter heat, they become even more aggressive and, according to reports, may encroach upon human settlements in search for men. The bodies of werewolves in heat throb constantly, with longing for a man's seed, and obey that longing by mating day and night. It is thought that this itch continues unabated until the period of heat ends or the werewolf conceives. But with all of this in mind, there have not been no doubt that werewolves are quite savage monsters. However, there are cases in which a werewolf comes to recognize a man as above her. If he defends her, or if she falls deeply in love with him, in such a case the werewolf becomes extremely loyal to the man, and she has acknowledged him as her master. When mating, she becomes like a man who overcomes a number of werewolves can become the alpha of the pack. All of the werewolves in the pack then come seeking his sex so that they could bear his children. Thus, he must be prepared to honor them all as they slink up to him to mate. The werewolf may attack and bite a human male. The werewolf's mana enters through the body, through the wound, and the woman herself becomes a werewolf. Human women who have become werewolf tend to be gentler than monsters who have been werewolves from birth. They recognize their original family and lovers as their packmates and master, and may continue to live with them. However, there are two issues that could be considered pragmatic. First, they bite any woman in their family and turn them into werewolves as well. Second, like werewolves give birth, they exhibit powerful carnal desires for the men they consider their husbands, causing them to go into heat and seek his seed. Because these women were originally human, it is more difficult for them to control their animal urges. Thus, their new masters find themselves in unexpected carnal duties demanded of them by beasts with libidos several times that of a human. Up next, we have werecats. The werecat is one of a race of creatures with origins in the mythology, legends, and folklore of Europe, as well as Africa and Asia and Oceania. Nekomato are malevolent yokai from Japanese folklore and mythology, belonging to the Neko class of animal spirits. Like all Neko, the Nekomata are envisioned as a type of demonic feline that are distinguished from other Neko by the fact that they always have two tails. They are also considered to be the most evil of all Neko spirits, and thus, much like Hellmans in Western legend, they are completely devoted to wicked things in all forms and have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. A classic fairy tale demon that exists solely to cause cruelty and fear. A Nekomata have a vast array of magical abilities and often begin life as an ordinary house cat would. Upon reaching a great age, develop great intelligence and supernatural traits. If their tail split in two, they have become a Nekomata and will normally via devouring their former owners and taking their form. Nekomata will then begin their immortal life as a servant of unfettered evil, devouring humans whenever they can, causing massive fires, and raising the dead as puppets for their amusement. They also continually gain social status via trickery and murder, so they can use their new status to blackmail and enslave others. Nekomata are believed to only form from very old and very large cats with exceptionally large tails. For this reason, many cats were feared in ancient Japan, though they were revered by some and thought of as good luck. It was not uncommon for a practice such as cutting a cat tail to try and prevent the creation of a demon. From Kenku Cross, the werecat is a beastman with feline character. They use their supple bodies and keen physical prowess to pounce and prey from the shadows. Many live in forests, though some individuals take up residence near human communities to better stalk men. Werecats are quite capricious in person. It is not unusual for one to act friendly one moment and then sulk for the next. Still, they speak most loudly through their actions and less through their words. When their tails are erect and their eyes averted, you can surmise that despite the lack of interest they seem to be implying, they actually want to play with the man. Her spite will quickly subside if he entertains her sexually, as as a werecat can always be counted on to be eager to mate with a man she is fond of. In most circumstances, werecats are not particularly dangerous monsters, but they become extremely violent during their regular periods of heat. If one sees a human man who is of her taste while in heat, she will not hesitate to approach him and draw him into her embrace. As they tend to develop affection for the human with whom they have had intercourse, they are likely to continue to seek sex with the man they had raped even after their heat system. The longer the contact and the intercourse continues, the longer and more frequent the werecat's periods of heat becomes. One should therefore beware the excessive pampering by werecat's solicitations, as that may cause her to enter a state of continuous heat which cannot be managed. When werecats inhale the scent of a plant known as silver vine, they become intoxicated, lose their grip of reason, and for the time become even more violent than they were during heat. Though they are usually unpredictable at the times such as these, they become single-minded in their drive to cling to and mate with a man. It is not unusual to find one rubbing its flushed body up against a man in sublimation of sexual pleasure. Thank you. Be sure to look forward to the next video, which will be covering more of them, like the were-rabbit and were-sheep, and so on and so forth, of the demi-humans.